The median home sales price here in Metro Detroit has gone up $17,000 year over year. It's not the crazy price increases that we've seen in 2020 or 2021 or the first half of 22, but it's definitely beating a lot of the other metros out there like Central Florida, who's had a very, very modest price increase of just $1,000 on the median sales price. And that's even much better than some of the other metros out there like Miami, who saw a 12.4% price decrease in 2024. Denver, who's down 14.1%. And topping that list is Austin, Texas, down 18%. It's an 18% home value drop year over year just in 2024. And in this turbulent market that we're in, I do have some predictions on what we're going to see in 2025. Before we get into 2025, let's get into where we finished in 2024, starting with the number of sales nationwide, which has actually dropped from a record high of 6.8 million home sales in 2020, surpassing the 2006 record of 6.4 million home sales all the way to 2023, where we had a meager 3.8 million home sales. Now that's lower than 2010 during the recession, and the last time it was that low was 1995. But it did rise slightly in 2024 to 4.15 million home sales. So demand has definitely dropped dramatically year over year as the interest rates have risen, inflation has gotten the best of us. Literally, demand has dropped 50% from our 2020 peak. But all real estate is local. Is that what we're seeing here in Metro Detroit? At the start, I mentioned that the median home sales price went up $17,000 in 2024, but that's across all 5 counties in Southeast Michigan that my 85 agents service. Real estate is even more local than just a large metro. Looking around town, there are definitely some cities that took the lion's share of sales price increases, while others fared not so hot. Over on the west side in Livingston County, Brighton smashed records and the median sales price was up 8.2%. Staying west, but in Oakland County, South Lyon went up 11.7% year over year, and Milford went up a whopping 11.9%. Moving to more of a central southern Oakland County, Farmington Hills was almost completely flat at being up 0.7%. That's it. Barely a blip on the map. Commerce fared a little better at 5.7%. Rochester was way up with a show-stopping 17.9%. In Wayne County, Livonia fared pretty all right at 6.4%. Plymouth was actually down 4.5%, like the average sales price was down 4.5%. All 5 points, Grosse Pointe Shores, Grosse Pointe Farms, Woods Park, etc., were up 7.9%. And then swinging out to the east side, Macomb Township was actually up 8.4%. Finally, I looked at Ann Arbor, where we have a ton of agents and a ton of clients, and real estate values in Ann Arbor were up 11.1%. If there's a city you'd like to get the data on, there are way too many to mention in this video. There are literally over 200 municipalities in Metro Detroit, but I did take the time to compile the data for each and every one. Drop a comment below with which one you want to see, and I'll reply back with that city's numbers, including the number of home sales in that city and where I think that city is going to go, or that municipality is going to go, or township's going to go in 2025. Breaking out all this data, a few things became pretty apparent pretty quickly. Areas with a lot of new construction were one of 2 areas that rose the fastest. Areas like South Lyon or Macomb Township and Milford. New construction is typically 50 to 80% higher priced than the median sales price in any given city. So in South Lyon, where the average sales price overall in 2024 was $485,000, most new construction started at $600,000. And of course, when you add on some upgrades and some, better counters and some better molding, those prices moved up pretty rapidly, dragging the entire city with it. The other winners for appreciation in 2024 were areas with downtowns. So downtown Rochester went up 17.9%. However, looking at greater Rochester Hills, it only went up 7.5%. This is probably the best test case in Metro Detroit that I look at to see how a downtown affects a greater city. So winners included Ann Arbor and Rochester and Milford, and scope out Northville's appreciation. Now, Detroit proper is worth talking about because it's such a large land area with so many micro areas in it. Giving an overall figure doesn't really make a lot of sense. On one end, you've got Corktown that went up 32% over the last 2 years, largely because of the $1 billion Ford put into the Michigan Central Station, whereas the city overall was actually only up 1.1% in 2024. And then you've got areas like Farmington Hills without a downtown are fully built out, and they're seeing prices stay pretty steady and pretty even. So where are we going in 2025? Let's start nationally, and then we'll bring it back local. Starting with the experts, Lawrence Yoon, who's the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors, looked at all the economic factors surrounding real estate. He also looked at rents and job growth and wages and inflation and tariffs and more, and came up with 3 predictions. First, the number of homes sold. Number of transactions nationally is going to move up to 4.46 million total sales, and that's both resale and new construction, of course. He's also predicting about a 2% price appreciation nationwide for years 25 and 26, so 4% total, mostly because the interest rates are predicted to stay north of 6%. So let's punch into Metro Detroit and Ann Arbor and what we're going to see in 2025. Where we are going in terms of pricing. Well, I looked at the areas that were flatlined in terms of pricing, being this ring right outside of Detroit, Farmington Hills, Southfield, Ferndale, Warren, East Point, Redford, Livonia. And why that is when you have the next two rings out on the way up with pricing pretty rapidly, including Birmingham and Bloomfield running all the way to Clarkston, Oregon, Oxford, and then back around and both sides of 23 and both sides of M59 running all the way across and then back the other way from the Points all the way over to Groseal, Wyandotte, Allen Park, and down to Flat Rock. I think this has to do with people being a bit more picky in regards to their lifestyle, and they can be because there are now more listings available. We saw a pretty rapid increase of homes on market in the second half of 2024, particularly Q4. In addition to that, builders are building faster than ever in Michigan. There's more new construction available. So now that buyers have a lot of options, especially coming out of Q4 in 2024, where the number of homes on market went up dramatically, where are they going to be drawn to? Mainly cities that have things to do and strong DDAs, which are downtown development authorities that do things like Lanyap in Rochester or the Big Reveal in Milford, where businesses dress up their windows like presents for kids to unwrap. Places like Northville and Plymouth, where there's the Victorian Festival and Art in the Park. Ann Arbor's always a draw with the university, but it also has the biggest art fair in the state. Things like that, places with schools, great city services, great parks, great shopping, and good gyms. Health and wealth do go hand in hand. That's one thing I've learned in my career. Now that said, in the inner cities in this ring here, because the average sales price is 15 to 30% lower, we're still going to see strong demand, but not like the other rings. Next up, I'm going to talk about some of the projects that are happening in and around Southeast Michigan and how they're going to affect home values. But before I do that, if you're looking to sell or buy a home anywhere in Southeast Michigan and you're looking for someone to help guide you through all the craziness that's going on, my team and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. We've got almost 3,000 five-star reviews on Google. Okay, diving in and looking at the future of growth here in Southeast Michigan, of course I have to look at the train station and Ford's investment and how it's affected Corktown real estate prices specifically. I mentioned that Corktown's prices are up 32% over 2 years, but Corktown's real estate prices are now up over 100% over the last 4 years to an average sales price in the mid 600s. But are there other projects that are going to have that big of an effect on pricing? Yes and no. No single upcoming project is going to bounce the way the train station did, but cumulatively, oh, I nailed that word that time. All of them will contribute to the greater Metro Detroit area's growth. So most major upcoming projects are happening in the city of Detroit, and Detroit itself has become hip and cool to live in, but it's also very hard on families. High rises and condos going in have no yard space for kids and dogs, but walkability is pretty amazing. Most people that have families that move here may look at the city, but the vast majority will opt for a suburb. As an example, talking to a dozen or so people that are being transferred in by Ford to work in the Michigan Central Station, none of them are looking for homes in the city at all. Most are looking at Northville, Novi, Royal Oak, Troy, Plymouth, those areas, which is a boon for those cities. So let's talk projects. At the top of the list, of course, is the Gordie Howe Bridge, which is slated to be complete in 2025. So why this one matters? Our biggest trading partner, and I mean the United States, for both exports and imports is Canada. It's then followed by Mexico, then China, then Japan. So 25% of all US Canadian exports and imports right now go across the Ambassador Bridge. To put that in perspective, more goods go across the Ambassador Bridge every year than all of our trade with Japan. It's been a boon for our local economy for decades, and the Gordie Howe Bridge will greatly expand on that. At a cost of $4.8 billion, seems super expensive, but is it worth it? For Metro Detroit, I think it definitely will be. Next up, I've got Henry Ford Health. They broke ground in 2024 on many major projects under the health system's overall $3.3 billion future of health redevelopment of Detroit's New Center neighborhood. Under construction is a new 335,000 square foot facility located next to Henry Ford Health's One Ford Place headquarters. The Henry Ford Health plus Michigan State University Health Sciences and Research Center is going to focus on cancer, neuroscience, immunology, and hypertension research. The building's the first tangible structure for the 30-year partnership between Henry Ford Health and Michigan State that was signed back in 2021 and is slated to open in 2027. Additionally, Henry Ford Health broke ground for a new hospital tower on West Grand Boulevard in Detroit in September. That's a $2.2 billion 20-story patient tower for the region's largest health system that's set to open in 2029. The 1.2 million square foot tower is going to hold 432 patient rooms, 5 intensive care unit floors, 28 operating rooms, and 18 interventional radiology labs. The new emergency room will be a 75,000 square foot space, twice as large as the existing ER at the Legacy Hospital, which is right across the street, of course. All told, this is going to bring in 1,100 high-paying jobs in the medical field. And again, medical jobs pay pretty well, right? Doctors get paid pretty well. And for real estate, that New Center neighborhood, I'm definitely eyeing homes to invest in right now because I believe that's going to have a very similar effect as the train station did to Corktown, but over in 2027, 28, 29. Finally, something is happening to that albatross across Troy's neck, Kmart headquarters, long abandoned. So that's been planned as a mixed-use development for the former Kmart Corp headquarters, which is in Troy, right on Big Beaver, which is expected to start construction during the summer of 2025. Making headway after demolition began in 2024 on the 1.1 million square foot space, leaving the site now vacant. Although the final numbers have not yet been determined, Somerset West could include up to 750 residential units, up to 500,000 square feet of office space, 300,000 square feet of retail space, and a hotel with 250 rooms and parking. In April, another use was announced for the site when the University of Michigan Health said that it was going to buy 7.28 acres of the site to build a new multi-specialty laboratory center for clinical and diagnostic services on the property. And then, of course, talking about U of M, we've got the University of Michigan Center for Innovation. The University of Michigan broke ground last December for its Center for Innovation in downtown Detroit. The center is slated for completion in spring of 2027, which is a $250 million project. It's a 200,000 square foot center that's going to act as the satellite graduate school campus. UMCI will serve as a research, education, and entrepreneurship center to develop talent and spur job creation and inclusive economic growth. So U of M spent $9.5 million to purchase the 2.3 acres of property right on Grand River, and they bought it from the MGM Grand because frankly they just weren't using it. So the UMCI property falls within Illich's Detroit district and is bounded by Cass on one side and Grand River Avenues and West Columbia and Elizabeth Streets. This is projected to add over 200 well above median income paying jobs. Other notable mentions are the Mid, which is a mixed-use development in Midtown with retail, hotel, and residential. This is on Woodward Avenue just north of Mac. The Thompson, one of the high-end brands of the Hyatt, is actually going in here as well. It's a $377 million project. Next up, guys, we're getting our very own JW Marriott, going in where Joe Louis used to be. And it's a big one. It's going to have 600 rooms and it's going to have convention-style space. And that's one thing we are sorely lacking in Detroit is room for mid-sized conventions. There's some in the Westbrook Cadillac, but really every other city has done far better than we have in this arena. And those are big dollars that spin off into the community and surrounding businesses when conventions come to town. But most of these projects, while underway, are really set to open in 2026, 27, 28, and 29. So I really see 2025 here in Metro Detroit as more of a setup year or a launching year for the future. That said, all of the projects being worked on does mean jobs today actually building the projects, but overall, with all the projects and investments and infrastructure and jobs and businesses, while 2025 may be a setup year, I'm actually really excited for Metro Detroit and the coming growth. Now that we're in 2025, it's time to reveal I've got a lot of cool things planned for, of course, 2025. Bigger videos, more in-depth videos, helping you guys stay the most informed audience in Metro Detroit and Ann Arbor. So thanks for coming along on the ride and the journey with me, and we're gonna see you guys on the next video.